The first, I want to start to talk about the building, since it's for most of us something we have been following. We have been following the process. We're seeing now that the building is rising. And for me, modern museum and a new museum should be a welcoming museum. It should be a natural meeting place for people to go, and sort of like an open venue. And I think the opera is a good example of that. It's probably most of the people visiting the opera, they don't have a relationship to opera, or they most likely don't go to ballet or the opera. So how do you see the new museum being an open venue?
Well, first of all, there's been a lot of, it's a little strange to sit here and speak English, I must say, but it's
agree.
good that we're in the global world and we are reaching a wide audience here. There's been some discussions about the National Museum and the building recently, and personally I think it's going to be really great and welcoming, because what we need to focus on in the National Museum is the art and the art pieces. And we are getting a museum with really great space and really great facilities also for producing exhibitions. And as well, we will have like auditoriums, we will have like several spaces we can use for various purposes, and we will have a restaurant, and we will have like a rooftop. You can go out and look over the city, and so on. So it's going to be a lot of different, a lot of dynamic and a lot of different areas. So, and then it's important also to remember the size here. People say that size doesn't matter, and I'm not sure I agree. But it's 55,000 square meters, and that is enormous. We're talking about a large hospital or something in comparison. To have that kind of space dedicated to art, I think that is magnificent.
Yeah. But I was thinking about, for example, the front yard. Will that be open for public to sit and relax? And also I was thinking about, because I went on a tour and I got to see the amazing roof terrace. It's beautiful with an amazing view. Is that something, you have to pay and then go up to enter, or how will it function, do you think?
Yeah, when you enter the museum, then you have to get a ticket in order to go through the museum. But we have a lot of discounts, and a lot of people get in for free, for instance, children and so forth. But you need to cash a ticket.
Yeah. Support the museum.
Yeah. Then that's also for security reasons.
Yeah. But this is also about like lowering the threshold. And me as a gallerist, one of the things I hear often is like, I don't know anything about art. They raise their hands and they sort of get scared. And they also ask like, oh, you are the artist, or do I have to pay a fee to enter the gallery? And I think, how are the museum going to try to lower the threshold? Because I think it's very important and fundamentally, when we're investing so much of governmental funding into new museum, that people are going to feel welcome.
That is extremely important, and that is also the purpose of the National Museum. It is to lower the threshold, and our general vision is also to have everybody talk about art at the dinner table, right? So, and I think that is an important job that we also need to do and go in front in order for there's going to be to gain more attention in general towards art and culture. We will work with reaching the audience in various levels. So there's like one thing is when you enter the museum, we kind of already got them when they enter the museum, but we need to do a lot of work before they enter the museum. And that is why we're also testing out new digital methods now. We have done a really huge job with digitalizing the art pieces. So right now we are up to 40,000 pieces that are available online, and you can like download them and everything. And then we are working also with social medias and other kinds of strategies in order to also engage people in art.
Yes. Because when I was looking and I was Googling, like, okay, so MoMA, Museum of Modern Art, is one of the most visited museums in the world. And if you see to the chief commercial director, she said when they were looking into different target groups, it was one thing that was very easy that everybody wanted, and it was personalized experiences. And that could be, for example, they started to have meditational classes. They also offer different membership, different opening hours. Because my experience from for example, the old National Gallery is that as when I'm working from 8 till 6, it's not very easy to go and visit, and also, of course, in the weekends, but it's sort of like hard to find time. Is this something the museum has been thinking about?
Yes, now you're addressing opening hours, and of course that is super important. It costs a lot to have the museum open. It's so many millions just for 1 hour. It's you don't think about that, but in the National Museum, because it's huge, and because of security reasons, etc., it's actually a huge cost. But we want to have an accessible museum, and then that means we also need to look at opening hours. But in the end, it will also be a budget discussion, right? But we will like to welcome people in. We will also like to be accessible outside of work hours, and that is our general goal. And I think this is not something new. The famous director Thies, who was director of the National Gallery, he actually had like this huge vision for an accessible National Gallery at all times and stuff. So this is something that has been debated for quite a lot.
And it's also because of a lot of discussion worldwide is about the funding is usually related also to the amount of visitors. But I think in this, like when we're into this topic, it's also about we have a neighboring museum here, for example, that are like late night openings, etc. And I think it's a fine balance on creating interesting and important exhibitions that is based on research and etc. and not being like entertaining facility. Do you see this challenge of like being very open and trying to facilitate for an audience, and at the same time trying to...
Without selling out?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, I don't think it's so difficult.
No.
You should always have the art in the center, and that should be the most important thing. It's supposed to be, we are the National Museum, so we have a huge collection, and it encloses visual arts and crafts and design and architecture. And it's almost 400,000 objects of pieces that we hold in our collection, so it's huge. And I think as long as that is always the center of attention, the artworks, the pieces, the collection, and culture and arts in general, then I think it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But you mentioned something earlier that I think is important also, that the thing about personalized experience, and I think that is really important, and we also focus on that because we need to be for all of Norway. So we need to be extremely inclusive, and we need to like be for everybody. But how do you do that? How do you speak to everybody? Where does everybody go to a cafe? And what kind of shop does everybody shop in? It's not possible. So you kind of need to be quite personal in your approach. So I think in order for us to be for everybody, we need to make it like, think about my museum, so that each and one of our visitors has like the experience of this is my museum. So I think that is really important to have that focus.
But how, for example, have you been talking about how you're going to do that? Like, do you have...
Yeah. Yeah, we're testing different. There's kind of you can use like, this is a good thing about this digitalized world that we live in, right? There's a lot of possibilities there also to kind of create your own experience even before you enter the museum. For instance, there's a lot of, but you also need to think about how you address people and how you talk to people, not necessarily about what is the most important thing for us as a museum to say. Of course, that needs to be there too, but we also need to think about what kind of dialogue do our audience want, and what kind of questions should we ask, maybe, and what kind of questions should we answer.
And you have to see the audience, because that probably varies a lot.
Yeah, varies a lot.
And then now we also can talk about social media, since we are on the same topic. I think like we are always like fighting for these micro moments of people attention. We can go do so many things, and we also see it as a gallery. Why should they visit us and not go, go to all these other places? Do you have any like strategic plans for your Instagram, for example? Because now I see it's 35,000 followers. It's approximately 300 likes each image. That is maybe not that much if you compare it to the base of followers. Have you put any plans on how to interact more with your followers?
Yeah, I don't think I will ever say that that the number of likes is a rate for success.
Definitely
I think
not
it's more,
success.
Yeah, I think it's more like because it's very varied also who likes what. And because we also take a point of departure in the collection, and it's really varied. What kind of interest do you have? It's like the old architectural drawings, or is it like a glass vase, or is it a painting, or it's like various interests.
But it is for a gallery as well. Like the exhibitions, it varies, and somebody hates that and they love that, but still it's like sort of it's an indicator on a communication dialogue, I think, with people. That's my personal.
Yeah, I think, and we take the point of departure in the collection. We will always do that, but I think also as we go along in developing the new museum, we're also working with how to be more playful for once, and I think that would be important in order for us to like maybe take out a little bit more of the potential in social media. And then we also have like a value that we work with, that is to be more bold, basically. So I think in order for us kind of working with that right now, in order for us to kind of reach the potential that there is with a new museum, we need to take risks, because we need to go out of the comfort zone in order to do something new. Otherwise, I think we'll just be too safe, and then we will not succeed. But it's actually really difficult to go outside the comfort zone, because you really want to succeed, and you want to like check out the result, and you want to have a good criticism and all that. But we are working actively with that.
Actually, I am quite rarely on Snapchat, but my favorite Snapchat is from Kode, where you are the director. And it's great. When I was studying art history at university, it was like a topic. And it wasn't about the intellectual part of it, but it was they published like cutouts from classical paintings and with funny comments. So you looked at all these details, and it made it very like not dangerous, Yeah.
I think, and I think it was funny because we were the first museum to be on Snapchat, at least in Norway. So that was in Bergen, where I was before. And then we got a lot of approaches afterwards. People wanted to see our strategy and our plan and everything. And we didn't have any strategy or any plan. We just said, why are we not on Snapchat? Yeah, let's do that. And then we just opened an account and then said that, okay, you just have a go, just have a low threshold, just play with it, have fun. And we had some really like talented people working there, so they kind of just gave them a go.
And now I see that the National Museum are snapping on to that on their Instagram.
So but it was just you can't always like have like a really developed strategy and a plan and a budget and everything. Sometimes you just need to try out a little bit, experiment.
Yeah, and also I think it's a point there that. We are in my community. We usually discuss this. How are we? Because like a Rothko painting, it's you can't compare it towards like seeing it real life than to see it on the screen. So how do we get this message out to like get them actually in, not only being in this virtual world?
That is true. But you see, there's a general increase of interest towards the museum. in Norway, but also worldwide. And I think that is precisely that, because the world now is like so visual and digital, and like everything goes so fast. And then I think that has gained more attention toward, for instance, the actual pieces, the art in itself, because there's a lot of authenticity in that, and there's something completely different to experience an artwork in general. Rothko is a good example, there's a lot of others, but it's something completely different. It's another experience to be there in front of it than to see the actual image, a digital image. So we kind of feel that already, and that is something that is super important that we hold on to. It's that kind of authenticity in the experience, and so that is, I think, what we can do as museums.
Yeah, and then I want to talk a bit about you as a leader, and you're known for being quite a modern leader and active and present. And while you were director at Kode in Bergen, you wrote about 50 articles. Is this a strategy, and would you like to continue this?
Yeah,
to be present and
Yeah, it was a very specific. That was a strategy. And I have also written some articles while I was here at the National Museum. And I want to write more, basically, and that is that's kind of clear goal behind it, and that is the same thing as you want to have people talk about art at the dinner table. That is kind of underneath it all. So that's kind of in the articles. I try to find connection where art plays an important role. I believe really sincerely that art plays an important role in our lives, and in a lot more like areas than you would expect, basically. So I kind of try to find where art plays an important role and write about that. For instance, I did an article on the art in House of Cards, which is really like amazing when you go down to it. It's so important, the way that it's special in the first season, but the way that they use it and the Willebang, it's really great. And I've also been writing, for instance, when there was the election in the States, I was writing about how Obama, which kind of artworks that he chose for the Oval Office, and how Hillary got in George O'Keeffe in the White House collection, and how difficult that is, and stuff like it. So try to find the stories where art plays a significant role every day. So that kind of the goal for the articles.
And this is a very different approach than Audun Eckhoff, the previous director, had, I would say. So, but then I was also thinking about, since now everything is like connecting in one building, do you see maybe the curators or the professionals within the museum to maybe have also a stronger voice in the present, to make like a ground for having a stronger debate?
Yeah. We have extremely skilled and talented people working in the National Museum. And they already do actually publish a lot, write articles, and they also...
Yes, but it's also for more like kunstkritikk and more the specific field.
But that is important too, because one of the... what we also need to do, we need to gain new knowledge on the collection. That is our mandate. So that is written in the letters we get from the Ministry of Culture when we get the funding. So we need to deliver on that. And that means that you can, because while some of my articles I try to go wide and not to be really specific, but go wide, but we need to be really specific also. We need to go into the research sphere, and we need to gain new knowledge. So we kind of balance that.
So they will be continuing doing that, and you will be the one that try to go wider.
No, not necessarily. Yeah, they also engage in debates and stuff like that. I think it's important that we speak with a multiple voice from the museum. We should not just speak with one voice, and it would be super boring just to listen to me all the time.
Yeah. And then you earlier said that you want to try to get the museum out in the world. How are you thinking to do that? Or do you have,
obviously, you can also do that with the debates, but you could also do that with shows, for instance.
Traveling exhibitions.
And you can try to be present also in some of the important forums worldwide.
Do you have, because for other museums, the most obvious artworks would probably be Munch. Do you see on some other artists in the collection that would be attractive for other museums? That is relevant today?
I think
everything
is really
all of them.
I mean, we have so many interesting things in the collection. Of course, there's a lot of attention toward Munch, but you could also, for instance, Harriet Backer, such a huge potential, and right now Harald Solberg. Now I'm just staying in the same category because you said Munch. But we have a huge exhibition with Harald Solberg at National Gallery, and that will also tour. So we can, but then we also have a really interesting collection of contemporary art, and we will
Louis Bourgeois.
For instance, and at the new museum it will be like the first permanent installation, permanent presentation or collection display of contemporary art, because that was not there before, but that will also be enclosed in the new museum in the collection displays.
Yes. And a bit about more about the collection. It's now, you can arrest me, but I was in a guided tour, and then I think they said 91 rooms.
Yeah.
So it's quite a lot. And I will also say the budget for buying new art is maybe not the biggest. Have you looked into incentives to build a even stronger collection than what we have? For example, closer dialogue with the private collectors, because what my experience is that the few private collectors we have are quite they're out seeing, they're very present in the community.
Yeah, but definitely we're looking into that. We already have a collaboration with the Sparebankstiftelsen and Norwegian Saving Banks Foundation. So they are also purchasing pieces that are going into to our collection, but we need to further examine those possibilities.
Yes. Yeah. So I just have one final question. It's quite a wide question, but what do you think will be the biggest change with the new National Museum?
I think it's to have all of what we do gathered in one building, and the massiveness of the whole project. I think that will be quite. It will be, yeah. I think maybe just because it's so now
the monumental feeling. Or,
I really try to avoid to talk about size again, right? But I think this kind of the massiveness of it. Like we have, it's going to be 10,000 square meters just with the collection display. So to have all that to like see in one museum. The massiveness of the collection and the cultural history, and we have like pieces that date so far back, and to have that presented together with this huge exhibition space on top, that is going to be 2,400 square meters, and the kind of massive projects that we can do in that. So it's going to be like a whole other area of experiencing art in Norway. Just to be very discreet.
Yes. Thank you so much. I was just, if anybody has any questions. Yes.
So question. In terms of the exhibitions, I'm sure you will have a permanent exhibition and temporary exhibitions. What's your strategy when you will select temporary exhibitions? And how will you define and balance national art, architecture, design, and international art, architecture, and design? Because Norway as a country is also changing.
Yeah, that is true. And we are producing in the new museum. We need to produce temporary exhibitions for tomorrow, right? So that is kind of important that we have that. What is Norway today? We are a national museum. why do you build a national museum in the 21st century? What does that tell you? What kind of identity policy are you having around your collection and your temporary exhibitions? So I think that is really important. We need to balance. We will have the permanent display of the collection, but we need to also change that. That cannot be static. That because we are in a living world that is developing. And then in terms of the temporary exhibition, we need to enclose the full scope of who we are, and that means that we need to have like older shows also, and we need to do like architectural shows, and we need to do focus on craft and design and the brand new contemporary, and we need to balance the Norwegian and the international. And then it's important also to say that that we also do touring exhibitions in Norway. We have been doing that up until now, and we're going to continue with that also, because we need to be a museum for all of Norway. We are a national museum, so we cannot just live in our own island. We need to exist in the world, if that answered your question.
Thank you. I think actually our time is up now. But thank you so much for you took your time.
Thank you so much for inviting me.